Alright, now just a disclaimer before we start, don't send hate to the devs. If you're gonna send anything to the devs, make it constructive criticism, okay? Also, one more quick disclaimer, a lot of the issues of this update differ from person to person, so if I get something wrong or you have a different experience than I did, then drop that in the comments. Also, I'll keep a pinned comment with updated info if anything's wrong. Okay, so I was hoping I wouldn't have to make this video, but I logged out the Phantom Forces yesterday just to find that they dropped the worst update we've ever seen. I've been playing off and on since like 2018, and nothing has even come close to the levels of bad this update is. Except for that one spawns update. That was horrible. That took like half a year to get fixed, but this one's somehow worse. I think honestly the main problem with this update is that it feels like a long line of changes that Stylus has been making, trying to fix things that might not even be possible to fix and hurting themselves in the process. So go back to October of whatever year it was, I think 2020, where they dropped a spawn update to try to improve spawns, and it literally made the game unplayable for like straight up 3 months. It was so freaking bad. Like, that was one of the worst states I've ever seen the game be in for a change that didn't even have to happen. And guess what? We're getting through that all again with some of the changes I'm going to get into in this video. So first of all, let's start off with the movement change. So basically, they're taking EMP slides and Zynga slides, and they're capping them at a certain speed in order to not make them go over the check that would see speed hackers. Now, I've already made a whole video about this topic, and pretty much the gist of it is if they can't fix speed hackers without hurting the regular player, then they shouldn't even touch it, because speed hackers are still never the problem, and the aim hackers are. If there's an aim hacker in your server, regardless of whether they're speed hacking or not, that match is ruined until their vote kick. So vote kick is still the only effective solution, and trying to implement a change like this that will literally hurt just everybody else, it's a horrible idea. Like, okay, now we lose two incredibly important mechanics for so many players. Like, dude, the game feels so much more sluggish now. I don't even want to play, and a lot of other really good players say this is one of the worst updates they've ever felt. And it's like, dude, like, I agree, this sucks. I don't want to play anymore after this because it's just such a dumb change for basically nothing. So pretty much the game feels way more sluggish for actual good players now, and it really sucks to see because, like I said in my last video, the movement system is one of the things that keeps me playing Phantom Forces and the freedom of it. But now seeing that cracked down on with a band-aid fix, that feels incredibly lazy because there's probably better ways you could do it. Like I proposed in my last video, a check that sees how fast you're moving for how long, which that might not be possible with the Phantom Forces spaghetti code, but if that's the case, then just don't even touch it. Don't ruin game mechanics just to not even do anything. Like, dude, aim hackers are still the problem. They will never go away. Vote kick is the only solution, dude, unless it can detect software. So if they can't do anything about speed hackers without hurting the average player, then just don't even do it. Like, nobody speed hacks without aim hacking. Just because they got rid of speed hackers, aim hackers are still going to exist, and most of the time when there's no hackers in your gameplay is going to be hurt anyway because they just totally screwed up the movement system. So okay, I guess there's less speed hackers, but there's the same amount of aim hackers, and most of the time when there's no hackers, your movement's going to be worse. It's a horrible change. Okay, and the final thing I have to say about this is that it's pretty much an indirect nerf to every slow moving weapon, and just makes the meta even more centralized around ARs. And it's like, dude, come on, like that just adds insult to injury. It's like, okay, now the meta's even more centralized around those guns, and it's harder to use slow-moving weapons now because they reduced a lot of the things that allowed you to bypass that limit with your own skill. And this is kind of frustrating, especially for someone who kind of mains the intervention. Like, dude, come on, man. Like, did anyone actually even want this change? Also, the anti-cheat itself is really sloppily implemented, because fun fact, for the first 24 hours, a lot of that time, according to Spirals and some of his footage, it would trigger when you super jumped. That is so bad. And, okay, look, I called it. I didn't say it on my channel since I had a little bit more faith that they would make it, you know, at least decent. But I just knew it. I knew it was going to trigger during something completely normal like that. And guess what? I was freaking right. And they did patch it out, but it's like, they should have waited another, like, straight up 3 months. Like, we already had the May update. Just drop only the guns first. And then leave the UI and anti-cheat till later. And yeah, a lot of the UI ones I'll talk about in the next section, but just in general, there were a ton of bugs when this update dropped. A lot of them being things like, you'd be facing weird directions when you spawn. A lot of players would just be glitching around the map, and it'd be like impossible to hit them, but it plays normal for them, which I actually didn't have a ton of experience with. I'm mostly getting it from Oscar's video where he talked about him and Spiral's experience with it, and how that's been a huge issue for them. I haven't got that yet, which maybe they fixed some of it, I don't know, but in everywhere you look, the update is so half-baked, they should have just waited so much longer before dropping it. Alright, and before you say anything about this change being a net positive, there's already been footage of speed hackers anyway, so it didn't even work, and it just nerfed movement for no reason. So, yeah, make it out what you will. And despite how much work went into the UI, that's also crazy half-baked. So let's talk about that because it also brought upon some of the biggest issues for both console and PC. Alright, so the problem with the new UI update is that even though the UI itself is actually pretty decent, it reset a lot of your settings. And for some people, I think it reset their sensitivity too. Now on PC, this didn't happen to everyone. I've seen some people say it happened to them, and I believe it happened to me too. But a lot of people's sensitivity worked normally on PC after the update. Console's a different story though, and we'll get to that in a bit. And this especially sucks if you didn't have your settings memorized or you didn't have a screenshot of them before because you didn't know the update was coming. So this is purely my experience and I might be misremembering, but before the update, whenever I joined the test place, it would be at 0.500 instead of 0.758 in the PF settings, right? It would just get reset for some reason. And I was like, oh, they'll fix it during the update. So when I logged in on the update, my sensitivity still felt slow, but it said 0.758, and it didn't fix itself. It didn't feel normal until I went into settings, just messed around with the bar, took it off of 0.758, and then put it back on, and then it felt normal. So that might just be my experience, and I might also just be misremembering, so this is kind of conjecture. Take it with a grain of salt. And if you do have sensitivity issues after the update, I recommend you try that, and even if you don't have issues, or you don't think you do, just try it anyway. Like, it's not gonna hurt. And once again, this didn't affect every PC player. I've seen a lot of people say it happened to them, and I've also seen a lot of people saying their sensitivity worked. However, console got screwed this update so bad, because they actually straight up changed how sensitivity works on console just for no reason. So, literally so many console players, unless they were on the default, just got totally screwed. Now they all have to fix their sensitivities, and they might not be able to get it back to how it was, and honestly, this is probably the worst part of the update. Like, on PC, it's probably the movement changes and some people's sensitivity getting reset. But no, console got destroyed when it comes to sensitivity. I feel so bad. Alright, so that's about all I have for this video. Now, drop your personal experience with the update in the comments, because I want to know if more people got the sensitivity thing that I had, or maybe I'm just tripping and completely misremembering and I just placeboed myself into thinking my sensitivity changed. I'm pretty sure it did, though. It felt so slow for a while. Just let me know in the comments. I don't want to spread misinformation, so I'd like to know what happened with you. And yeah, that's about it. Subscribe.